test. Good evening and welcome to this regular meeting of the Council of the Municipality of North Perth. Our meeting date is Monday, March 24th, 2025. I'm Mayor Todd Kasenberg and I'll call this meeting to order. I ask the clerk to note our starting time for the minutes as 7 p.m. A warm welcome is extended to councillors, staff, delegations, and observers who will participate in this meeting, regardless of whether being physically in attendance in the council chamber in Listowel or being connected through web technologies. We begin tonight's meeting with the playing of O Canada. Those in chambers as able are invited to stand. We acknowledge that we are on the traditional land of the Anishinaabe peoples. We wish to recognize the long history of Indigenous peoples in Canada and show our respect to them today. We recognize their stewardship of the land. May we all live with respect on this land and live in peace and friendship. Tonight's meeting is being streamed live on the Municipality of North Perth YouTube channel and will be available there after this meeting as an archived video. To those viewing the meeting via the YouTube channel, a warm welcome to you. To those present in the gallery today, by attending a public meeting of the Council, you are consenting to your image, voice, and comments being recorded. Anyone who is invited to speak will be recorded and their voice, image, and comments will form part of the live stream. The chair and/or the clerk have a discretion and authority at any time to direct the termination or interruption of live streaming. Such direction will only be given in exceptional circumstances when deemed relevant. Circumstances may include instances where the content of debate is considered misleading, defamatory, or potentially inappropriate to be published. Attendees are advised that they may be subject to legal action if their actions result in inappropriate and/or unacceptable behavior and/or comments. Thank you. At this time, I invite your decorum over the course of the coming meeting. I have regrets tonight from Councillor Matt Richardson. Let us move to item 5 on our agenda pertaining to pecuniary interest. Members of council have full lives with engagement in the community. Sometimes they may find themselves with a potential financial or pecuniary interest in an item at the council table. Provincial legislation mandates councillors to declare this interest and, in so doing, avoid direct involvement or in the consideration or voting on the item. I invite all councillors with a perceived pecuniary interest, including those who have already so declared in writing, to verbally advise the chair in public session. Documentation is to be submitted, if not already done, pursuant to council procedures. Councillors may declare now or at any point in the meeting should such interest be recognized. Colleagues, do any of you wish to make a declaration at this time? Seeing none, as chair of this meeting, I will manage the flow of proceedings tonight and largely in accord with our agenda and the rules of procedure. Some may be participating remotely by web conference. Should they wish to speak, they may draw the attention of the clerk to this using the conferencing technology's text chat function. If technical difficulties arise for remote participants, I will advise. Let us now focus on the people's business. Part of that focus is achieved when those in chamber silence and put away their phones. Regarding item 6 of our agenda, I have a resolution for consideration to approve the agenda as follows. That the agenda for tonight's meeting be approved. Can I call for a mover? Councillor Anstey, thank you. Seconded by Councillor Rothwell, thank you. Any discussion or debate on this? Seeing none, let's have that vote. And that is carried. Thank you. Let's move on to item 7, the so-called consent agenda. Consent items are placed on our agenda because they are believed to be non-contentious, yet they may warrant council's recognition and/or action. Grouping them expedites our business. However, any councillor wishing to extract an item from the consent agenda for discussion, debate, and/or individual action may do so. There are 15 items on our consent agenda tonight, including the minutes of our last regular council meeting. Councillors, anything to extract here or any corrections you'd like noted to the minutes? Councillor Rothwell.
Thank you, Mayor Todd. Good evening, Council, members of staff, and public. Item 7.2, the Middle Maitland Rejuvenation Committee's activities report. Just a couple comments. And if no one else brings forward, item 7.10 regarding a request from Teresa O'Reilly and the North Perth social media account.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Rothwell. Anyone else wishing to extract from the consent agenda? All right, seeing none, we'll adopt the usual procedure that I've been using. We'll go to the items that are pulled first. Councillor Rothwell, let's hear about 7.2.
Thanks very much, Mayor Todd, and I appreciate being able to speak to this issue. So Mark Hackett had the report, item 7.2, giving the Middle Maitland Rejuvenation Committee's activities and specifically mentioning of the tree planting of 588 trees last year with a grant from the county's stewardship, Perth County Stewardship Grant, which is fantastic. And I see their plans are lining up to also do another tree planting with the student eco tour. But in particular, the reason why I'm bringing this forward is to bring to council and the public's attention the annual Maitland River cleanup, which is a great community event as long as the weather's great. On Saturday, April the 26th. I'm sure more details will follow, but this is an important activity to clean up our Maitland River corridor and surrounding properties there. So I just want to underscore the importance of that work of the Middle Maitland Rejuvenation Committee and their and applaud them for that work and effort. And hopefully other members of council and staff will be able to join us on that April 26th date or the rain date of May 3rd. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Rothwell. Let's turn to item 7.10. I don't think there's anything actionable from there by way of resolution.
Thank you, Mayor Todd. I agree. So 7.10, and again, this request from Teresa O'Reilly is dealing specifically with our social media accounts and in particular concerns about the Twitter, former X, or now X platform, and the move that some municipalities have made away from that platform given some of the issues with the owner of the platform. And I'm just wondering if council would agree to consider requesting staff to give their recommendation at a subsequent meeting regarding possible alternatives or not to that platform. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Rothwell. I think staff has some insight into this. I have asked about it. So Clerk Klein did now Interim Manager of Strategic Initiatives, Klein. I don't want to get too tongue-tied here. If you want to pick up and offer some thoughts on this for Councillor Rothwell's insight.
Sure, through the mayor to Councillor Rothwell. It has been brought to staff's attention. We have been keeping an eye on what some other municipalities have been doing in terms of discontinuing the use of X. What I will say, just in chatting with our communications coordinator, is we have heard from the community that some people still engage through X to get news and updates from the municipality. We will be undertaking a review of our corporate communications plan and social media policy in 2025. So through that, we would look at what social media accounts we're using, the engagement levels on each of them, and kind of the future of what our communications plan is. So if there's no urgency with the request from council, we could look at the use of X through that review. But if council would like an earlier report back, just looking at X specifically, then they could direct staff to report back on that specific social media platform.
Thank you very much, Mayor Todd, through you. Thank you, Lindsay. On the basis that it's on the staff's radar to undertake this review for the whole of the social media accounts in this coming year, I'm satisfied with that if the rest of council is as well, so I can certainly be satisfied with that. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Rothwell, and thanks to Ms. Klein for allowing me to massacre her title. Any other items before we consider the omnibus resolution for the consent agenda? Seeing none, I have a resolution that reads as follows: that consent items 7.1 to 7.15 be received for information, and the minutes of the March 10th, 2025 regular council meeting be adopted. Can I call for a mover? Councillor Andreessen, thank you. Councillor Blazek, I think I saw you wave your hand too, so you'll be our seconder. Any discussion or debate? Seeing none, let's have that vote. Okay, Deputy Mayor Callum records a manual in favor vote. And with that, that is carried. Thank you. All right, at this time, it's proposed then that we move to agenda item number 8. Our agenda indicates that we will hold a public meeting pertaining to the proposed amendments to the North Perth zoning bylaw. For the purpose of executing this public meeting, I use my discretion as head of council to announce a recess that will last the duration of the public meeting. And with that, we are in recess. Now, let's call to order a public meeting dealing with an application made under the Planning Act. To those who are in attendance for the purpose of this public meeting, welcome. This is a meeting pursuant to the Planning Act for a proposed amendment to the North Perth zoning bylaw. This is a statutory public meeting to deal with application for zoning bylaw amendment number Z02-2025, initiated by the municipality of North Perth to consider changes to the zoning bylaw that amend definitions and update provisions to be consistent with provincial legislation enacted under the Planning Act and the Provincial Planning Statement 2024, which is now in effect. Correspondence, reports, and comments received regarding this application will be considered by council. Those in attendance wishing to make comment concerning this application will be given the opportunity to do so. Anyone wishing to appeal council's decision in this matter must make verbal submission during this public meeting or have made a written submission to the council. Those wishing to receive notice of the decision regarding this application must notify the clerk via email, telephone, or by utilizing the public meeting sign-in sheet, which is on the table at the back of the council chambers, providing their mailing address and telephone number. At this time, I'm going to call for a summary of this application. This will be offered by Moira Davidson, Senior Planner for the County of Perth. Welcome to Listowel again, Ms. Davidson.
Good evening, members of council. Good evening, members of the public. I'm here to present the housekeeping amendment for North Perth zoning bylaw number 6, zoning bylaw 1999. The act of a housekeeping amendment is quite common practice in the planning realm. It ensures that the zoning bylaw is kept up to date with changes in provincial legislature. I know that I was before you kind of early, or I guess late 2024, kind of asking that I could start this process. And now I'm before you presenting what the proposed amendments will be. Next slide. So before you use the brief agenda of the housekeeping amendment report, I have a summary within the presentation that is broken out into themes, the details of which can be found in your report itself, where it details the specific sections or page numbers, but I'm hoping to keep it as brief as possible and summarize it as best possible through this presentation here. So we'll quickly go through what a housekeeping amendment is, as well as what the proposed themes of the amendments are, which includes definitions, council decisions, clerical errors, outdated provisions, OLT decisions, and then additional residential units. And then I'll also summarize the comments we've received to date. Next slide. So as I mentioned, a housekeeping amendment, they are part of an important part of good planning practice. It allows us to ensure that the zoning bylaw remains usable and consistent and effective over the longevity of the implementation of the zoning bylaw. It ensures that the text is accurate and is also reflective of recent council decisions, as well as decisions at upper levels of government. It's the opinion of staff that the amendments that are proposed before you today are minor in nature and they are consistent with the PPS, as well as are in keeping with the official plans for the county and for Listowel. Next slide. The first theme of changes proposed to the zoning bylaw are reflected in definitions. Specifically, we are looking to make changes where there's been revisions to overarching planning policies, such as the Planning Act, the Provincial Planning Statement, or the Ontario Building Code, where there's now need to revise the definitions in the North Perth zoning bylaw to ensure consistency. So we're looking specifically at amending definitions of day nursery, supplementary farm dwelling, primary dwelling unit, second dwelling unit, attached garage, detached garage, and mobile home. Next slide. The next proposed theme of amendments that we have before you is amendments related to reflect council decisions. So we've undertaken a review of applications that have been before you over the past 10 years, including zoning bylaw amendments and minor variances, and have found some key themes and similarities in the approvals that you have made. And over time, this relief that has been regularly granted has now established a new development standard for certain provisions. So we're looking to align these provisions specifically related to yard widths and yard depths in the sections that are listed on the screen to permit these reliefs now as of right and reduce the need for future amendments by other landowners who might be asking the same and are now in keeping with this newly established development standard. Next slide. The third theme surrounds clerical errors. It's not uncommon that when zoning bylaw has been in place for so long, that as amendments come year after year, or as the housekeeping amendments that are regularly made are undertaken, that there might be some references that are incorrect, or there's been sections that have been accidentally omitted or deleted. So these themes look to this theme of clerical errors of this amendment, it looks to just address those changes. It doesn't impact anything in the administration or implementation of the zoning bylaw. It doesn't have any impact on the provisions. It just ensures clarity and consistency when referencing different sections in the zoning bylaw or any formatting or text errors that there might be. So an example is shown on the screen. You'll see where in section 921, it's the provisions for single detached dwellings in the R3 zone. There is a duplication of lot area minimum, but only 9.2.1 speaks to lot area being in meters squared. So we have recommended that 9.2.2 instead read lot frontage minimum, which was a clerical error we identified. Next slide. The fourth theme, I believe we're on now, it's the removal of provisions. So with the changes to overarching policies, such as the provincial planning statement, there are some revisions or provisions, in the zoning bylaw that no longer are consistent or conform to this policies. Some of these include, 516, which is one dwelling unit per lot. There's now an as-of-right permission for three residential units per lot. So we've now recommended the removal of that definition and provision. There's also there's also provisions that speak to prohibited uses, and then agricultural zones, supplementary farm dwellings, and then removal of holding provisions. Holding provisions, we're recommending the removal because those holds have now been lifted, nullifying the holding provisions that are on those properties. And then for the prohibited uses, we'll get into the details of that later, but essentially there's a definition for the keeping of household pets and the regulation of animals, and those specific uses are regulated under the Municipal Act and not the Planning Act. So we're looking to remove duplication of efforts, whereas I believe it's called your animal control bylaw or something of that nature, already regulates animals, so there's no need for the zoning bylaw to do that as well. And then as for the supplementary farm dwelling, there's already a 3 residential unit permitted as of right. There's no need for this duplication of a permitted use no longer. Next slide. The next theme is related to OLT decisions. So in the time that, or since the last housekeeping amendment to the North Perth zoning bylaw, there was an OLT decision made regarding property is 555 Main Street West. Because the OLT has made a decision on that, we have done a consolidation of this provisions or the provisions within that to ensure that they're consistent with this decision. I guess the key change you'll see between the OLT decision and what's proposed in the zoning bylaw is simply the numbering of that section. So due to the passing of time since the approval of the OLT decision, there was R520 is what was referred to in the OLT decision. It was since utilized and incorporated already into the bylaw under a separate application. And as such, we're now proposing that this section and these provisions and this OLT decision be incorporated as a subsequent section as R529. And on the screen there, you'll also see an image of Schedule A Key Map 31. This is also included in your package and is also recommended to be revised to ensure that R529 is appropriately shown on this schedule as well. Next slide. The final change recommended to the North Perth zoning bylaw is really related to additional residential units. This was the key change in provincial legislation that kind of led to the housekeeping amendment that's before you. There are proposed changes through the Planning Act as well as OREG 29919, which permit a variety of or permit as of right a variety of additional residential units. In and of themselves, it refers to them now as additional residential units versus second dwelling unit. So we've gone through the zoning bylaw and ensure that terminology change has been changed and modified appropriately. And then there's also changes in what we consider the primary residential unit now. And there are finally some as of right permissions as to how many residential units are permitted on the lot, what the lot coverage can be when there's additional residential units on a lot, and the limitations on what a gross floor area can be. So there's many sections that kind of speak to this throughout the zoning bylaw, and we've done our best to amend those sections and bring them into conformity with these various planning policies and provisions. Next slide. The final themes that I wanted to make you aware of are the comments we've received on these applications, or the proposed application. We did receive comments back from Blue Water Recycling, GRC, and MVCA. Overall, there's no objections. GRCA did want to ensure that we were not permitting additional residential units in hazard lands, and this clarification can be found in section 515. And then there was also public comments that we received. We received a letter from a member of the public just bringing up their concern that there was their perceived conflict of uses in the residential zone 5, and we're actually recommending that that be reviewed during the comprehensive review instead. And there was also the mention that the OLT decision that I presented to you previously was excluded, so we made sure to add that into section 11.629. Next slide. That is the brief summary of the housekeeping amendment before you, but I'm happy to answer any specific questions on the sections of reference. And thank you for having me and present to you.
Okay, we'll come back to you at the question period in a little bit, I think. Let's turn to you and to the clerk with regards to notice of this public meeting. Can you share with me the details that have been executed to advise the public of this meeting?
Through you, Mayor Kasenberg, notice of the public meeting was posted on the website and emailed to the agency list on February 13th. Additionally, it was posted on February 20th in the listable banner in Independent Plus.
Thank you. Anything that we should know about from the county on that front, Ms. Davidson? No. Okay. Thank you. Also, you've shared comments here. I just want to check with our clerk, were any additional comments, reports, etc. received?
No additional correspondence.
Thank you. Okay, so this is where the public part of the meeting begins. Ms. Davidson, you can take a seat, please. For this opportunity, we will invite those who've attended this meeting who wish to make comments to do so. First, we call on those who are in favor, other than the applicant. Anyone wishing to avail themselves of that opportunity? We're not aware of any, thank you. Those who are opposed, who would like to speak on this matter, may now do so. Anyone wishing to do so? I'm not seeing any indication of anything online. Thank you. The applicant or the applicant's agent, I think largely we are established through Ms. Davidson's presentation. Thank you. All right, colleagues, opportunity for you to ask any questions, express any concerns before we consider the actual bylaw in actual council meeting. Thanks for coming back. Good call. Anyone with questions? Councillor Rothwell.
Thanks very much, Mayor Todd. Moira, thanks very much for your report. Just one item here. There's lots of good work in here. There's a question I have just in terms of item 7.2.5, the exterior side yard minimum, changing from 6 meters through to 4.25 meters. And I understand the issue and the proposed amendment. I'm just concerned what that means for the built form on our residential areas in particular, I guess is the specific provision here. Traditionally, exterior side yards and front yards were the same. And I just want to hear the rationale, other than the minor variances that have been granted, as to whether all property should be treated in this fashion for the 4.25 meters versus the standard 6 meter front yard that we would have. Thank you.
Through the mayor, you are correct in that the initial or priority there was the minor variance applications. I'd have to get the exact numbers of what applications we're looking at, but it was a significant number of new developments that are looking at 4.25 or less of an exterior side yard. In addition to reviewing the minor variances, we also looked at comparator municipalities and what they're seeing in kind of more dense communities. We also reviewed this information with building staff as well as the CAO and confirmed that the 4.25 meters was deemed appropriate. Anything less than 4.25 would be not in keeping with what adjacent municipalities are doing, and we deemed that anything less than 4.25 would have to be looked into during the comprehensive review.
Thank you.
Okay, anyone else with questions? I am not seeing further questions, so notice that the decision of council will be given in accordance with the provisions of the Planning Act. Council's decision is subject to appeal to the Ontario Land Tribunal in accordance with the provisions of the Planning Act. And with that, we can adjourn this public meeting and call our council meeting out of recess and back into regular session. Two matters flow from this related to item 8.1 on the agenda. I have two resolutions for our consideration. The first is as follows, that North Perth Council receives a report dated March 24th, 2025, entitled Zoning Bylaw Amendment ZN2-2025, submitted on behalf of the municipality of North Perth, affecting all areas within the municipality of North Perth, and that North Perth Council acknowledges that a statutory public meeting was held pursuant to Section 34 of the Planning Act with respect to zoning bylaw amendment ZN2-2025. Can I call for mover? Moved by Deputy Mayor Kellum, seconded by Councillor Anstett. Thank you. Any discussion or debate? Seeing none, let's have that vote. And that is carried. Thank you. And now you can decide, Council, whether you like it. As follows, that North Perth Council approves zoning bylaw amendment ZN2-2025 submitted on behalf of the municipality of North Perth, affecting all areas within the municipality of North Perth. Can I call for a mover? Moved by Councillor Johnston, seconded by Councillor Nordum. Any discussion or debate? Seeing none, let's have that vote. And that is unanimously carried as well. Thank you, colleagues. Thank you, Ms. Davidson and the planning team for working with our staff to settle a lot of those matters and to advance the cause of our zoning bylaw with some modernization. Sadly, as we know, this is only the beginning of a much larger process that's about to unfold. And I think that's what we're talking about next, in fact. So let's turn to item 9 on the agenda. We're going to consider 3 items from the Development and Protective Services Department under item 9.1. As item 9.1.1, the natural consequences of approving a new official plan for the County of Perth, which does await provincial approval, triggers work on a new comprehensive zoning bylaw for our community. The report here outlines the approach and invites council authorization to same. I'll call on Senior Policy Planner Moira Davidson from the Planning Department of the County of Perth for an introduction to what could lie ahead with Council's direction. Again, Ms. Davidson, you're up.
Thank you, Mayor Kasenberg, for having me again. As you would have heard during my presentation for the housekeeping, housekeeping is just an interim solution to bring the zoning bylaw into consistency and compliance with different types of provincial legislature, but it doesn't provide a wholesome review of the zoning bylaw. And as you also are aware, the zoning bylaw was undertaken in 1999 and hasn't had a comprehensive review to date. So I'm before you today to request Council's permission to undertake such a zoning bylaw amendment, or excuse me, such a zoning bylaw review now that we're done the housekeeping amendment. If you could go to the next slide. So I just have a summary of kind of what I'm here to speak to you about, and it's also provided in the report that's on your agenda. The project rationale, so why is it important to undertake a comprehensive zoning bylaw review? Why am I looking to undertake such? As well as what the project team would look like, so who would be leading that at the county level, as well as who would be working on it from a staff's perspective at the local level, what the scope of work looks like, and then what the project schedule looks like. So the how and the when I'm proposing to undertake this comprehensive review. Next slide. So on the screen here, you'll see a graphic that illustrates how planning operates in the province of Ontario. So we're looking at the different pieces of legislature that guide how planning works, filtering down all the way from the Planning Act, which is a high-level policy, provincial policy, filtering all the way down through to the zoning bylaw. And as Mayor Kasenberg said, the official plan is the vehicle that implements these overarching planning policies, which was updated and approved by County Council in 2024, October 2024. And while we're still awaiting approval from the ministry on that document, it is required that once we receive that approval, each zoning bylaw is needed to be updated to be consistent and compliant with the official plan 3 years following provincial approval. So in anticipation of this large project, I'm looking to get a head start on undertaking such a review. We've been guided by the province that undertaking an early review is not a bad idea. It would assist us in ensuring that we undertake it efficiently and timely. So I'm before you asking to begin such a project. Next slide. So the section reference on the slide in front of you is the exact reference to the Planning Act, where it speaks to how and when zoning bylaws must conform to the official plan. So not only would I be looking to ensure that the zoning bylaw conforms to the official plan, I'd also be looking to ensure that it will align with the Planning Act, is consistent with the provincial planning statement, and also is reflective of current zoning practices and various trends that are seen throughout the province and are already working well in other communities. Next slide. So the slide here projects what I think the project team will be and how the organization chart will look like. So we've got a heavily collaborative process ahead of us. I'm anticipating that the project will be led by myself. It'll be led by the county planning team as part of the existing service agreement that you have with ourselves. It will be led by us, made up of myself, the policy planner, made up of some GIS coordinators, and then we'd also have what I would refer to as a steering committee. This would include representatives from each local municipality. It would include the CBOs, the CAOs, your local development planners, as well as public works representatives and engineering coordinators, representing kind of each key theme or key role that the local municipalities play in ensuring that we're able to appropriately service these communities and appropriately consider all these different factors when recreating a revised zoning bylaw for yourselves. Next slide. So here is the project scope, and I'll provide a summary of kind of the overall approach and then go into the details of what each phase looks to deliver. But essentially, I have proposed that the project be undertaken in a collaborative and I'll say a collaborative approach. So phase 1 and phase 2 would be undertaken as all 4 local municipalities working in collaboration with each other on such a steering committee. Would be guided by myself, but we'd be ensure that there would be consistency across the entire county. And then we would be breaking out into creating separate tailored approaches to the specific zoning bylaw documents once we reach phase 3. So phase 1 and phase 2 are heavily background focused. We'd be looking at a policy review and an overarching background paper review of all the key themes of what we think are important in the local municipalities and what needs more research other than just a policy review. And then those phases would then guide the creation of the actual zoning bylaw documents, both drafts and finals. So I could go to the next slide. You'll see the deliverables proposed. So as part of phase 1, the first deliverable is actually the terms of reference in front of you. I have been working with CEO Snell already for a couple months now on what the terms of reference should look like, what should be included, and the best guess I have is now in front of you today for your kind of initial blessing. And then the next important stage of the process would be to create an engagement strategy. So this is something that would go into the nitty-gritty details of when and how every group in the community needs to be engaged. So when notices should go out, how we should be engaging people, the method of engagement, should it be in newspapers, should it be posters, all those details are going to be put into an engagement strategy so that we're ensuring that we're engaging early and often throughout this entire process. The final deliverable for phase 1 is what I call a policy review. So we'd be looking at all the overarching guiding policies, under the Planning Act and provincial planning statement, but then other policies and provisions that are at different levels of government that still impact zoning bylaw. So if there's anything in the Drainage Act or the Conservation Authorities Act, just ensuring consistency across all those policies. Next slide. The phase 2 is when we get into the detailed analysis of different themes, I'd like to call them. So once we undertake a policy review, there might be the need for more information on trends and best practices in key themes throughout what I've sectioned off into 6 separate papers. So we'd be looking at, doing a background paper on general provisions, on residential land uses, on non-residential land uses, on open space, agricultural, and then parking and loading. And the thought behind that is that we'd be able to look at, if there's any specific provisions in the zoning bylaws that currently cause problems, or if there's specific trends that these member of council or staff would like specific interest in, then we'd be able to research those topics throughout those background papers, and then use both the policy review and kind of the trends and best practices background papers to then guide the final, or the first draft, of the zoning bylaw. Next slide. So using phase 1 and phase 2, we would create drafts of the zoning bylaw. This would be the first flush of ideas of how we would like the zoning bylaw to be written and what schedules would look like. We would then do various amounts of consultation with various stakeholders as well as the public to ensure that it is meeting those needs that have been identified. And then once that has been obtained and the feedback has been received and incorporated, we would then incorporate those into a final zoning bylaw document. Next slide. So the final zoning bylaw document is part of phase 4. This is also where we'd be meeting the statutory requirements of the Planning Act. So you'd be looking at statutory notice period, statutory public meeting. Following those requirements, we'd be looking at council adoption, and then we'd be going into phase 5, which focuses on appeals. So next slide. So then once phase 5, happens, there's an appeal period where people can appeal the zoning bylaw. After the appeal period, staff would assist you in undertaking those appeals, whatever they might be, so consolidating packages for yourselves, and then upon the completion of the appeal period, we would then assist in the implementation of the new zoning bylaws. Next slide. So on the screen is the proposed project schedule that I have for yourselves. This is in consideration of the proposed election in 2026. It also is considering the requirements for a 3-year deadline following provincial approval. And then it is also considering, or does the best to consider the key important phases that require public engagement and the timelines that maybe don't align with such. So it looks to avoid engagement during crop season. It looks to avoid it during harvest. It looks to avoid doing it during like March break and Christmas break when people aren't really wanting to talk about planning policy, maybe want to spend some family time instead. So I've done my best to consider those in this schedule. We're looking at a project start date of, January 2025, because I've been undertaking this terms of reference, but I'm hoping to begin as soon as I receive approval from this council. And then we'd be looking at a adoption of the zoning bylaw by council in July 2028, and then the appeal period may last however many months it may last, which is why it's TBD. But essentially what we're looking at is a July 2028 deadline at this point. Next slide. So you'll note in the proposed terms of reference in front of you that the scope is light on engagement. And that's because there is that engagement strategy that I am proposing as part of phase 1. So we have some ideas already on what engagement has worked in past projects we've done, specifically the recent official plan, where we learned that maybe there were some gaps in how we could have engaged the public better. So we're looking to create an engagement strategy so it's very clear from the beginning on how we're looking to engage, when people can be contacted, how they can be contacted. So we're considering things like notices and the use of social media, a project website, interactive web map, local council updates, steering committee meetings, stakeholder meetings, surveys, open houses, project meetings, walkthroughs, posters. We're considering it all, and then what we believe our best approach to be, once approved by the steering committee, would be implemented at that point. Next slide. So that is my summary of a very long-winded project, but I'm happy to answer any questions and then also take any considerations from yourselves as it is just our first blush, and I would look to hear any feedback that you might have on anything we've missed or any considerations we should take into account. But thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Davidson. Many of you have noted over the 6 years that I've been mayor that my hair has gone somewhat grayer. Some of that was earned from the official plan work. I'm delighted to say that I'll be retired by the time the zoning bylaw arrives at this council's table, and perhaps that will stave me off some more gray hair. Maybe even I stand a chance for some of my hair to go backwards, and maybe, just maybe. All right, colleagues, questions or comments? It was a pretty intense report. Anyone have specific questions they'd like to ask? Let's start with Councillor Andreessen, sure.
Thank you through you, Mayor Kiesenberg, and thank you for your presentation. Definitely a comprehensive review over at least a 4-year period, right? I'm just wondering about the actual workload, right? Like, you gave the timelines over that extensive amount, of years. So is this something that you as staff are going to be working on it like 7 hours a day, or are you going to be spreading that kind of workload? Because obviously there are other roles to do within your department. It just seems very extensive. Thanks.
Through the mayor, that is actually the role that I was hired on for. So my role specifically is ensuring that all of the municipalities are operating with current and updated planning policies. So yes, I will be working on this 7 hours a day for the next 4 years, but I don't have any other priorities other than that. And in having myself in this role as opposed to one of the development planners, it means that we're not taking away their important job that they undertake for yourselves in reviewing those development applications. So they'll be regularly involved. Same with the CBOs and engineering representatives through the steering committee, but they're not having to take time away from their important work to undertake this.
Thank you. That makes sense that you have dedicated personnel on this. That makes a lot of sense. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Rothwell, I saw your hand.
Thank you, Mayor Todd. Thank you very much, Moira, for your report. This is a huge undertaking, and there's not many situations where we go through preparing a new comprehensive zoning bylaw to implement a new official plan. I had the privilege of doing that back in 1997, and it is a large undertaking, which is going to affect every single property in our municipality. What I'm concerned about is the time frame in terms of length of time, and possibly you can speak to the issue about some of the significant changes in policy under the new county official plan, and I'll speak specifically to on-farm diversified uses, and as to whether or not something of that significance perhaps needs to have specific implementation sooner rather than later into our existing bylaws. So anyone that's looking at on-farm diversified uses does not have to go through site-specific amendments to have that. There may be other things as well, and I'm sure we can have more conversation about that as we go forward. But that's one of the main concerns I have, is that of all of our policies that we're looking at in terms of implementing, in terms of the new county official plan, when it is approved by the province, I want to make sure that we are able to get some of those significant matters dealt with sooner rather than later. That's my view. Thank you. Through you, Mayor.
Go ahead.
Through the mayor, regarding on-farm diversified uses, I will note that there may be the need to include different provisions or make amendments to the zoning bylaw in the interim. That's something that I think we as staff have determined will come as needed, as an as-needed base. The 3 years is while it seems long, I'm sure it will actually fly by when we consider how long the official plan ended up taking. As for how, people who are looking to undertake on-farm diversified uses, there is planning policy now that in the provincial planning statement that requires planning authorities to consider the policies within the planning statement over their local policies when they don't align. So there would still be the opportunity for those interested in developing on-farm diversified uses to undertake a review. It may still require a zoning bylaw amendment, but it wouldn't require planning justification, we'll say, because it's already supported at provincial policy level.
Thank you. Just further, if I may, through you, Mr. Mayor, Mayor Todd, I'm going on the basis that the province has approved our county official plan, and those policies then are in place, which are in alignment with what the provincial policy statement is saying. So it's just an implementation process, and I just want to make sure that we don't have property owners that have to go through zoning bylaw amendments, not justification process or anything else, but zoning bylaw amendments on a site-by-site basis when we could have zoning provisions included that would be across the board. That's what my concern is, and I'm sure you and staff can talk about those other matters as they come forward, but as long as there's an understanding is that there may be a need to do implementation sooner rather than later in terms of the replacement of our existing comprehensive zoning bylaw with a new. That's what my concern is. Thank you.
Through the mayor, it's definitely something that we can consider. We'll add it to, I'll add it to my agenda for the steering committee meeting, and we'll see if we need any maybe implementation or interim policy provisions to address that concern. Thank you.
And to build on Councillor Rothwell's question, I think there is something of a nuanced point there, which perhaps we didn't put on the table, and that is that zoning bylaw amendments cost proponents, right? So if, in fact, the official plan intends for a policy change, and the province and provincial statutes and regulations are aligned, then when someone presents with a project that would require a zoning bylaw amendment because the zoning bylaw is out of date, we need to give some consideration to the possibility that, in fact, they may not have to pay for that, or they should have their fees waived in the context of that. So I hope that's a useful addition to your comments, Councillor Rothwell.
Just one other item, it's also from a staff timing perspective. Frankly, I don't want staff, when they're busy working on other projects, to do a site-specific amendment, which for one or in a number of properties, when we could do it across the board to save time and effort and have consistency across. I mean, that's the rationale, and I'm sure staff will have that under consideration as well. Thank you.
Good, thanks. Anyone else with questions or comments before we consider the resolution? Okay, so we have a resolution prepared for us as follows. That North Perth Council receives the report dated March 24, 2025, entitled Comprehensive Zoning Bylaw Review, Terms of Reference, submitted by the County of Perth Planning Department, and that the North Perth Council endorses the scope of work included within the report entitled Comprehensive Zoning Bylaw Review Terms of Reference, and that North Perth Council directs county planning staff to begin the comprehensive review of the North Perth Zoning Bylaw number 6-ZB-1999 on behalf of the municipality of North Perth, affecting all areas within the municipality of North Perth. Can I call for a mover? Councillor Blazek, thank you. Seconded by Councillor Nordum. Any discussion, debate? Seeing none, let's have that vote. And that is unanimously carried. Congratulations. We look forward to the work. All right, as item 9.1.2, Council is provided with a report from the Planning Department pertaining to a consent to sever a residential lot from a farm parcel in the Elma Ward. County of Perth planner Nathan Garland, who works on North Perth files, is with us to walk through this severance proposal. Welcome, Mr. Garland.
Thank you, Mayor Kiesenberg and members of North Perth Council. I'm here to present on behalf of application B02-2025. The owners and applicants are Randall and Beverly Raycraft. I'm here to go through it. It's a little bit of a unique application, so I just want to give council an overview and rundown of it. Just for council's information, staff are not supportive of the application because it does not meet policies, but we're going to go through the application and give you the information to consider. So just outlining the subject property and application. So the subject application is for the area in yellow. It's approximately a 1.9 acre parcel with the retained lands as approximately 57.3 acres. The lands have merged historically in the past. So it previously was a north-south parcel, or there was two separate parcels that had previously come together to merge to create this situation. It's also bisected by the previous rail trail running through the property also. So there is a division between the two parcels north-south, just for council's consideration and note also. Because there is two homes on the property, they are requesting a severance of those residential area, or that residential block. That's where it does not meet county policies, and therefore staff cannot support. But we're just going to give you additional information on that. For council's information, there are the two blocks that are owned by the applicants. So you'll see the one block to the north of the rail trail owned by the applicants, and then the block to the south. Those two parcels were merged historically, so they have roll numbers that run north-south, as opposed to east-west that are shown now. So the properties are merged together. However, the roll numbers historically did run in a north-south pattern, but they have merged together because they were in the same name. So because they were in the same name, they ended up merging together historically. Just a picture from Perth Line 55 of the property being proposed. It was a little bit better picture from the street view image than the day I drove by. So just showing that the house is there. There is a shed on the property. There's also a house and a shed just to the east as well too, that the owners and applicants live in. One comment was provided from the neighbor from West Perth. They were supportive of the application. Blue Water Recycling was also an agency that provided comments. No concerns from their end. The applicants have requested severance as their primary property is to the east. So it's not a surplus farm severance. So this is just a residential severance. Because they own the property to the east, or they own the house to the east, this would be severing off their main property. Lots had historically merged what appears to be the same ownership. So based on the information coming forward, those lots have merged just based on the ownership of that. And the applicants own land on the north side of that rail trail, and that was the previous image shown. So as mentioned, staff are unable to support the application due to the PPS, the county official plan, which does not permit a residential severance. And just for council's information, there are no barns or MDS concerns in relation to this, so nothing on the property would be impacted by MDS, as there is already a house there. So it is our recommendation that North Perth Council receives the report, and that North Perth Council recommends the County of Perth Land Division that the application is denied. I'm happy to address or answer any questions at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Garland. Colleagues, questions or first comments? Councillor Rothwell.
Thank you, Mayor Todd, and through you, thanks very much, Nathan, for the report. Is there any information as to when when the parcels would have merged together in terms of the ownership piece? This is rather, well, it's not specifically unique. I mean, every property along Perth Line 55 in Elma is in this situation where the railway came around in 18X, whatever it was, and severed like these two farm parcels. But at that point, I understand through you is that it was the north-south lots that were in separate ownership. But do we know when the property owners actually became merged together?
Based on our through the mayor in response, it's our understanding approximately the mid-1970s or so when they ended up purchasing the property and putting that in the same name. So that's our understanding during that time.
Just further, I understand staff's recommendation with respect to the policies. If this in fact were a surplus farmhouse severance, if Joe and Jane Farmer that had another farm were to purchase the farm from the Raycrafts, they would, and if they had a house on that other farm, they would actually be eligible to sever off one of these lots. As I understand, we have seen that. So just
through the mayor as well too, staff did look at that, and there was a consideration for that if they own another piece elsewhere. Additionally, staff looked at that as a because there is merger provisions in the Perth County official plan, recreating those original lots. However, because the rail trail bisected, that would be about a 25 or 23 acre lot or so, which really didn't meet the policies either. So, but yes, going back, it would have met those if there was a separate, if they had another farm elsewhere.
Okay, anyone else wishing to ask questions here? Councillor Duncan.
Thank you. More of a comment. Because of the railway creating this issue, any other farm in North Perth would be allowed to be severed in this situation. Correct, Nathan? If the railway didn't go through this farm, we wouldn't have this problem.
Through the mayor, we would have looked at a different severance configuration likely and applied the merger policies. So that's where you would have removed that agricultural piece and then had the remnant, I'll say, residential lot left over. So you would have looked at through the merger. They would have been slightly different provisions, yes.
So in that respect, I feel it's pretty tough to punish a landowner for the fact that the railway come through and took a chunk of their land out and put them in this situation, and the fact that our policies don't really reflect this situation. So I would lean towards looking at this a little differently and possibly approving it. Thank you.
Okay, anyone else wanting to make comment on this or ask questions? Not seeing anyone. We have a resolution. Let's consider it at least and see where it goes. As follows, that the Council of the Municipality of North Perth advises the Land Division Committee or its delegated authority that the Municipality of North Perth recommends denial of application file B02-25 submitted by Randall and Beverly Raycroft for lands described as Concession 18, Part Lot 21 and Part Lot 22, Elma Ward, in the Municipality of North Perth, municipally known as 5678 Perth, line 55. Can I call for a mover? Can I call for a mover? Councillor Nordholm will move. We need a seconder. Councillor Rothwell is our seconder. All right. Discussion, debate. We've heard some first comments from Councillor Duncan on this one. How are we feeling about enforcement of policy versus compassion given the circumstances?
Thank you, through you, Mayor Kassenberg. I second Matt's comments.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else with comments on this one? Councillor Johnston.
The lands on the other side of the railway, the only way to access them is it off Road 159?
Through the mayor, yes. I believe they have a trail that runs through it from the retained land. So it appeared on the air photos there's a bit of a pathway that goes across, but they do have access from 59 also.
Okay, anyone else further? Okay, I'm not seeing anything else, so let's have the vote. We're waiting on a vote.
Councillor Duncan.
There we go. Okay, so, sorry. All right, thank you. So that's defeated. Council, what is your will here? Councillor Duncan.
Make a motion to approve the application. Recommend the Land Division to approve this.
Okay, so moved by Councillor Duncan, seconded by Councillor Blazek. Any discussion or debate on this one? Clerk Carter.
Through you, Mayor Kassenberg, we do have the list of standard conditions that we would include with that motion if the recommendation was approval.
Okay, and I think our colleagues understand the importance of having conditions. All right, so there's a list of standard conditions that would be included. Anyone wishing to ask further questions or extend debate on this? Councillor Andreessen.
Thank you, through you, Mayor Kasenberg. Are there implications for us because we aren't following policy with this particular request? If we could have some information about that, thank you.
Through the mayor, I think we've read this before. I mean, staff, it is an option for staff. It always is nice to know the direction from council because it gives applicants kind of an idea of where the voting has happened in the past. For council's reference, this is a fairly unique application based on the division of the land, so it does provide some nuance to it. I don't know how often we'd see this come up again. I'll say it's seldom. Typically, if it was like just a residential severance or something like that, it may be a little bit of a different evaluation because of that idea. But at the same time, it's always unique and nuanced. There's no real precedent that can be held too often to this as far as comparables go. So.
Thank you. CAS now, anything to add to this from the local perspective? Okay, thank you. Anyone else? So we have a motion to approve this severance. It's on the floor. Everyone understands what we're voting on. Can you bring that up on the screen by any chance? Yep, that helps my 60-year-old eyes a lot. There we go. Thank you.
So these are just the conditions that were provided from the planning department. The motion would essentially be the same as the last one, just that we're recommending approval based on these conditions.
Okay, thank you. Clerk Carter. Councillor Andreessen.
Thank you to you, Mayor Kasenberg. Could I just have confirmation again from the planner regarding what would be the remaining acreage of that farmland after this severance happens? If you don't mind just reminding me, thank you.
Through the mayor, so the retained farmland or with the house included on the remnant parcel would be 57.3 acres. So currently it's just over, so it's 1.9 acres that they're asking to be removed.
Thank you, Nathan. Is that all workable? Thanks.
Through the mayor, yes, I believe most of it's workable other than just the remnant house parcel and the shed. If council so desired, you could probably reduce the proposed severed area slightly. It's currently showing 18 meters from the back of the shed. Based on the new housekeeping that was done tonight, you could reduce that down to 7.5 meters, for instance, and that would be an additional 11.5 if you were looking to reduce it slightly.
And thank you, Nathan. Through you, Mayor Kasenberg. And again, does that include the portions up above the railway? No, it's just below. It's in the red.
Yeah, through the mayor, this is just in the red parcel. This does not include the portions north of the railway. These were two 75-acre parcels historically. The railway bisected them, so this would be the 57.3 acres left over to the south of that original 150.
Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else with questions before we consider the resolution? All right, it's moved. It's moved and seconded. We have inserted words approval. We've inserted conditions. That's what we're voting on. Everyone gets it? Let's have that vote. And that is carried. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Garland. All right, we have a part lot control application as well for lands. The list award is item 9.1.3. Part lot control, as my colleagues may recall, is a method that permits lot owners to reset property lines so they can create conveyable single lots. Mr. Garland, you're up.
Thank you very much, Mayor Kiesenberg, members of North Perth Council. So I am here to present on application Part Law Control 2024. The owners are Douglas and Barbara Burfelt, and then the applicant is MTE Consulting. Council may recall this from a previous zoning bylaw amendment that came to council a few meetings ago now. So this is the subsequent Part Law Control application that would follow that. And then just for council's reference, that's the fire hall there to the north, and then it's along Wallace Ave. So this is just a double lot historically. So the request is for a exemption for part law control. They are requesting to sever off part one. It is currently vacant right now, so there's nothing on the property. The retained, I guess I'll just call it the retained lot, does have a house and a shed located on it. Council may recall part of the conditions for a part law control application, it does meet the zoning bylaw, so that's why the requirement to have it come back as a zoning bylaw previously. So this is now the subsequent part law control application because the zoning bylaw has now passed the appeal period. So it's previously within the plan of subdivision as well, is within the R4-28 and the R4-29 zone. It meets the detached dwelling provisions. So it does meet those provisions in the zoning bylaw for a future detached dwelling. Just a couple pictures of the subject property. There is a bit of a slope there. Council may note that we provided some comments from one of the neighbors that had expressed some concerns just around drainage. We're hoping that this would alleviate some of that because you'll note just in the one picture, and I apologize I didn't quite capture it, there is a catch basin there, so some of the drainage from both the house and the driveway would eventually drain towards that catch basin and take care of some of that water on that lot. So it might be able to split the lot for the drainage and move that front yard water towards the road, and that drain, and then the rear yard water would continue to drain as it is right now. So that entire lot currently drains towards the north and the river, or that bit of a channel. So it is staff's recommendation that North Perth Council approve the bylaw, and that North Perth Council, that the bylaw be provided to the municipality of North Perth who registered on title. I'm happy to address or answer any questions at this time.
All right, thank you, Mr. Garland. Questions or first comments from council? Okay, I'm not seeing any, so I have a resolution to the effect described that the Council of the Municipality of North Perth approves the application submitted by MTE OLS on behalf of Doug and Barb Bierfelds for the exemption of part lot control on lands legally described as Lot 131 and 132, Registered Plan 183, List Award, Municipality of North Perth. Can I call for a mover? Councillor Johnston, thank you, and seconded by Councillor Nordum. Any discussion or debate? Councillor Rothwell.
Thank you, Mayor Todd. Just a question through to Planner Garland. This is a technical question, but because these are two whole lots on that registered plan, which is the reason why we're doing the lifting apart lot control, will we also need a deeming bylaw to deem lots 131 and 132 not to be lots, so they don't merge together? It won't affect the process here. It's just a matter, I believe that it's also required, and perhaps staff could do their research as to whether or not we have to have a deeming bylaw.
We can, through the mayor, we can look into that. It's a good point that's been raised, so we're happy to look into that and come back.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? It's been duly moved and seconded. Let's have that vote. And that is carried. And Mr. Garland and Ms. Davidson, thank you so much for your service tonight and before tonight. And we look forward to seeing you again at our table soon. Let's turn to 3 reports from the Environmental Services Department under item 9.2 of our agenda. As item 9.2.1, staff shares an interesting new initiative with council related to tree planting in North Perth, supported by a grant from the County of Perth and our staff work, and invites staff is looking for direction to proceed. Jenny Routh, who is our GIS technician, will present information about this initiative and seek council direction. Welcome, Ms. Routh. I'm not sure we've ever had you stand at that podium before. If you have, it's my bad memory.
It was a little while ago, but a little rusty. Thank you, Mayor Kiesenberg. Good evening, everyone. So North Perth plans to launch the Plant a Tree, Grow a Future sale in the fall of 2025. North Perth residents will receive the opportunity to apply to purchase one large stock tree to plant on their property at a reduced fee. The trees will come with a planting package that will include all necessities for planting. This is a pilot project, and there will be a limited number of 200 trees up for sale this year. This will allow us to monitor the success and impact of the project, and if successful, will help us plan for future sales. The sale will allow residents to choose between 6 different native species: red maple, sugar maple, white oak, white cedar, eastern red cedar, and tulip tree. To ensure a high success rate for our trees, North Perth is committed to providing each participant supplies and guidance for proper planting and care. These packages will include coconut fiber mats for weed reduction, mulch for moisture control, a wooden stake for growth guidance, a tree protector to prevent animals from chewing off bark and twigs, and a planting information and tree care brochure. In the past, North Perth has participated in a variety of different tree plantings with the help of Maitland Valley Conservation Authority and the Middle Maitland Rejuvenation Committee. Generally, these plantings take place on North Perth property, but this year we wanted to offer something different. So conducting this sale provides an alternative, community-centered experience, allowing residents to have an active role in making positive environmental change right in their very own backyard. The cost of the project will be covered by the recently awarded grant of $5,000 from the Perth County Stewardship Program. It is proposed that the residents will pay a $20 fee for their packages. The fee will cover the remaining project costs and will ensure that the participants have a vested interest, encouraging them to care for the newly planted trees. Thank you for your time, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Routh. Okay, colleagues, questions, first comments. Let's go with Councillor Andreessen, followed by Councillor Nordham.
Thank you, through you, Mayor Kiesenberg. Hi, Jennifer, and thank you for your great ideas with this project. I think it's great to offer this to residents now. I'm very excited about that. I'm just wondering where the trees will be sourced from.
So each year when we do our previous plantings with the Middle Maitland Rejuvenation Committee in Maitland Valley, we usually take about 3 different usually wholesale greenhouses and get our best price. Often they've come from Hortico, which is a greenhouse in the Waterdam area.
Thank you, and through you, Mayor Kiesenberg. It's a very exciting project. Just curious how the application process will go. Will it be online, or how will that work out? Thanks.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. We are still kind of hashing out those details at the moment, but yes, we would like to have an online application. The application will also be available in physical form at the office if people wish to come in there. The first 200 people to fill it out obviously are awarded the trees, and we're hoping that we have a successful turnout, but yes.
Okay, anyone else with questions or comments? Councillor Duncan, you look like you have something to say.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. I just want to commend staff for all the work on this project. I think it's going to be a very successful thing, and I hope we see it grow in the future.
I think he means literally and figuratively. That's my guess. All right. Anyone else with questions or comments? Let's take a look at the resolution then. That the Council of the Municipality of North Perth directs staff to proceed with the Plant a Tree, Grow a Future sale in September of 2025. And further, that the Council of the Municipality of North Perth directs staff to prepare a report for Council outlining the results of this pilot project. Moved by Councillor Nordham, thank you. Seconded by Councillor Blazek. Discussion or debate? Seeing none, let's have the vote. And that is carried. I suspect enthusiastically carried. All right, let's thank you, Ms. Routh. Let's turn to item 9.2.2. Council is invited to give its consent to the implementation of a treasure hunt weekend pilot project in North Perth. Seems like Environmental Services is big on pilots right now, which is fine, and coming up with clever names is fine too. At first, sounding mysterious, when you read the details, you get a good sense of the neighborly intention of the program, which allows claiming of gently used items at the curb by others during a finite period of time. Almost a festival, eh? Mr. Hackett, let's have it.
Yeah, so this came up as part of the 2025 budget visioning development. And we were to look into whether we would be able to put on a program such as this. And it is, like you said, a curbside program that encourages residents to place gently used items or unwanted items at the curb for free pickup by other people. It promotes waste reduction, reuse of goods, and community engagement while reducing what ends up at our landfill. There are many other communities that have successfully implemented a program like this, and it allows residents to declutter and in a responsible manner, and also enable them to acquire usable items at no cost. So, looking at some of the details of what we were proposing, the pilot would take place from 7 a.m. on a Saturday on May 24th until 7 p.m. the following day on the 25th. It would follow the annual townwide yard sale, which is 2 weeks prior, and it would also not interfere with the Victoria Day weekend, which is the weekend before. We would have some guidelines made up, or actually have some prepared pretty well, ready to go. Residents would place their items at the curb, and we'd ask them to put on a visible free sign, so there's no confusion over what you can take off of someone's front yard. We would provide free signs that you could either print off if you wanted to do that yourself, or we would provide them at the municipal offices or libraries and places like that. We would have some prohibited items, no hazardous waste, mattresses or large appliances, or things that are broken. We'd also want to heavily influence people to, for the collection responsibility, that unclaimed items must be removed by the owners by the end of that time period. You don't want it sitting out on boulevards for weeks at a time. And then we would promote it as much as we could through our municipal website, our social media platforms, and also through local news media. There are a few benefits. Environmental impact, where we were actually reducing the amount of waste that would go to the landfill. And it also encourages interaction among residents and fosters a culture of sharing and sustainability. There would be minimal cost to the municipality to put this program on, and we would cover any of those costs through the solid waste management operational budget. I would take any questions if there's any.
Thanks, Mr. Hackett. Colleagues, questions, first comments? Councillor Blazek.
Thank you, through you, Mayor Kasenberg. I think this is a great idea. Thank you very much, Mr. Hackett, for your presentation. I had the same concern that you seem to have, that people are going to just leave their stuff out on the curb for a prolonged period of time. So is there bylaw enforcement in place here, or how do we prevent that from happening?
Yeah, I think we would have, through you, Mayor Kasenberg, we would have the bylaw people aware of this program as we go into it. And that would be one of the main things that we would promote as well, that you can't just leave it out on your boulevard for months on end. But we're definitely promoting that.
Thank you. CAO Snell has his hand raised. We'll let him weigh in.
I think that's also the intent of us having it be a pilot project. If we find that we have very poor compliance with people collecting their untaken items, we would probably only make this a one-shot event. So it's really up to the residents, if they want this to continue, that they would comply with the rules that Mr. Hackett suggested.
Thank you. Councillor Rothwell.
Thank you, Mayor Todd. Thank you very much, Mark and staff, for putting this report together. I think it's a wonderful project for all the reasons that were outlined. And one of the great things about not being first off the block in terms of a community that's undertaken this is learning from what others have done. And you and I had shared some of those comments earlier, and I think it's important that our community realizes this is an opportunity. This is an opportunity to connect in our community. This is an opportunity to give things away or get things for free, and keeping things out of our landfill, which is also, it's a win-win-win from that perspective for the environment, for our members of the public that are trying to pass things along, as well as for those that perhaps can't afford to some of these items. It's a great opportunity as well. So I'm fully in support, and I understand Councillor Blazek's concerns, and as long as we're able to address that, as CEO Stone's mentioned, a pilot project is the way to do it. And hopefully we will, our community will take up this opportunity and treat it as such. And hopefully we can see this go into the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Let's have the resolution that the Council of the Municipality of North Perth directs staff to coordinate a pilot treasure hunt weekend to be held in North Perth on the weekend of May 24th and 25th. And further, that the Council of the Municipality of North Perth directs staff to prepare a report for Council outlining the results of the pilot treasure hunt weekend. Moved by Deputy Mayor Kellum, seconded by Councillor Rothwell. Any discussion or debate? Seeing none, let's have the vote. And that is unanimously carried. Let's turn to item 9.3.3. Mr. Hackett with us again, our Environmental Services Manager, to bring a report outlining some options related to the collection and disposal of organic waste. Many in our community who have arrived from larger centres have reached out over the years to most of us, I think, inviting some sort of action on organic recycling. Mr. Hackett, let's have an overview of your report and opportunity for some questions.
Sure, thank you. So the Solid Waste Management Division of the Environmental Services Department currently offers a number of methods to divert for the municipality, for the residents of the North Perth. In addition to the curbside collection of waste and recycling, we also have recycling programs out of the landfill. We collect hazardous waste there as well. We have recycling programs for mattresses, tires, batteries and electronics and expanded polystyrene that we've developed over the years, and we continue to look for new things as well. So we're currently exploring various options to divert organic waste from the landfill, which would result in a reduction in municipal greenhouse gas emissions, while also conserving valuable landfill space. Legislatively speaking, we are not required, based on the size of our population, to collect food or organic waste. However, that may be something that the council may choose to do in the future. We have several options that are available right now. We have backyard composters. We used to have those provided through Blue Water Recycling, but they don't offer that anymore. So they are available at local hardware stores for around the $100 range. We have backyard green cone digesters that are available through Blue Water Recycling that we sell here for $135. And then the two other things that we want to talk about today is the countertop composters and the curbside green bin composting service. So just a bit of history. In August of 2022, Council received a report outlining the above noted organic composting options. And at that time, the Blue Water Recycling Association was not able to offer a curbside pickup option. However, they are now able to offer that service. Council directed staff to bring a report at the time when they're able to. So a bit more history. In March of 2022, and again in January of this year, there was a delegation from Food Cycle Science, and they presented a proposal for a pilot project for an indoor countertop composter, and that's called the Food Cycler. And they are recommending a pilot, without going into great detail because we just had that report. They're recommending a pilot program that involves 150 households. So just a few comments on the two different options. The proposed green bin organic collection service would be for weekly collection of organic waste in all urban areas. Recycling collection would continue to be collected on a biweekly basis in both urban and in rural areas. Waste collection, which is currently weekly in urban areas, would move to biweekly collection. And rural waste collection would remain the same as it is now on the biweekly schedule. So the proposed program from BRA would entail a medium-sized bin. That's the 240-liter bin. Residents would be able to utilize the green bin for both organic waste and also yard waste. So in theory, the program would be considered a new service level for the organic part of it, but it also would be a service level increase for the yard waste added to the one time a year we do yard waste pickup. The proposed countertop composter option would begin, as I mentioned, with a 12-week pilot program for those 150 homes. Participants would log their usage and also do a survey, and they'd collect all this data, and then we would have another report for council on the success or how that program went. It would be available then to move what it would look like to move past the pilot. We do have some information on that, where we would expand it into a program for all North Perth residents would be able to participate if they so choose. And that could take place over 2, 3, even possibly 4 years of implementing that program. So the proposed 150 unit program, after the food cycle science subsidy of $300, would include a cost of $100 per unit for the municipality, and then $200 to each of the whoever wants to participate in the program, and that would be a total cost to the municipality for the pilot program would be $15,000. So that's just a bit of information about the two options. In spending some time thinking about this and how we could do it, I feel it's a really important decision for council to make on whether or not they want to proceed with an organic composting program at all, or which one of those two options they would choose. So to provide information to the public and also to gather public information, I'm proposing that we hold a public information center or potentially public information centers in various areas, and we would also develop a survey that would allow additional public input. The Blue Water representatives and also food cycle science have also agreed to participate in these PICs, which I think would be great. And once we have some more information from the survey and from the PICs, we could bring a more detailed report back to council outlining how we could potentially proceed with one of the options for organic composting in North Perth. Additionally, the Listowel Lifestyle Show is in May, which would allow another opportunity to meet with the public, that we could have some of the units available and also have one of the recycling green bins there as well, and provide information to the public and have some conversations about what the program would look like, what could be included in the program. Again, looking at the financial implications, they're obviously dependent on which type of a program we would choose to do. If we did choose to move forward, and potentially would be able to include it in the 2026 operational budget discussions, depending on what council was deciding. One factor that affects the cost of the providing the curbside program is unfortunately the geography of the situation. North Perth is the farthest away from the Blue Water Center in Huron Park, and then they have to turn around and drive to London to where the recycling facility is for the organic compost and then return. So just a simple geography is affecting the cost of being able to provide this program. To make the green bin program financially feasible, it would be mandatory participation for all urban residents and that have curbside garbage collection. The staff estimate that the green bin service could be provided to residents for additional annual cost of about $50 per household, based on the urban bin count of around 4,650 bins. And that would be in addition to the current annual waste fee that they pay, depending on the size of the bin. The food cycle program has more of an upfront cost to it, purchasing the units, and have limited collection expenses. One of the issues we'd have to deal with if we did decide to go that way across the municipality, that we need to have some type of a depot for depositing the remnants from the food cycling process, because a lot of people, if you have a garden or lawn, that's fine in a single family, but if you're living in an apartment or if you're living in a multiplex place, you might not have somewhere to go. So there are options of what we could do for that. We'd also have somewhere to have somewhere for people to refill their carbon units that are their carbon filters. So there's a few things that we'd have to figure out for that as well. So like I said, there's a lot of pros and cons to both of these types of things. So I think that the ability for us to be able to gather as much information we can through public input is really important to help guide council in making that decision moving forward. So I would be happy to take any questions that you may have.
All right, thanks, Mr. Hackett. Colleagues, questions or first comments? Councillor Duncan.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. Mark, it says there's possibly a $50 annual cost to the green bin, but we're going to decrease 1 week of urban garbage collection. So then would the cost of the garbage bins go down accordingly then?
Through you, Mayor Kiesenberg. Yeah, I had the same question actually, and that pricing that we've been given for this would include that already. There's a certain amount of costs to provide this for all urban centers. There's also, if we did want to look at rural, we could as well, but again, it's an additional cost. But that pricing that they gave us includes the reduction in that level of service.
So net 50 up. Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Anyone else with questions or first comments? Councillor Andrews.
Thank you very much for your report, and through you, Mayor Kiesenberg. I really like the idea of getting more public input. I think that's a great idea, just to give them ideas about what the options that you're exploring are and get some more input about that. It might also provide more time even to discover what could be more benefits for us in terms of our space in the landfill. I don't know if you've thought more about that, what the benefits could be, or whether it might be worth exploring that a bit more.
Through you, Mayor Caseberg. I haven't done a great deal of looking into how much we would save in landfill space. I know we're one of those lucky communities that does have a fair bit of landfill space now, but we're always looking at ways to expand that. And by taking the amount of kitchen organic waste and also even the yard waste out of the landfill, it would be a substantial amount of savings. And it's hard to put a dollar value on that, but it would be something. It would be a definite improvement and of great value to the municipality for many years.
Okay, thank
If
you.
you could explore that, that'd be great.
CEO Snell has his hand raised. Go ahead.
And certainly a great valid point by Councillor Andreessen, because landfill space is vital. However, also too, organic waste creates the most leachate in our landfills as well. So when we look at not only the environmental impact of methane as well, but redirected leachate removal in the future will benefit probably none of us around this table, but eventually when the landfill is decommissioned, it will have less leachate in it.
Councillor Blazek.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Kiesenberg. This just popped into my head. The municipality already has a third-party contract with a local landscaping company through the facilities department. So if we decide to go with the countertop option, is partnering with somebody that we already have contracted for the disposal of or distribution. I don't know what I'm trying to say. Like when we need to take it somewhere, is partnering with a local company that we already have a contract with a possibility?
Through you, Mayor Caseberg. That's something we could definitely look at. I know there's one other community that has moved past the pilot project, and they've put in, it's almost like a miniature garbage bin. They look a little bit nicer than that, but where you could take what you actually produce and take it there and deposit it, and then they make it available if people want to come and get some. They could put, if you want some for your garden or something like that, you could come and get it from there too. So there's things that we could, different methods we could explore, and a third party disposal could be one of them. It's interesting. We have a couple units here that we've been demoing for the last little bit, and it's surprising the small amount that actually comes out of the unit when you're done with it. But yeah.
And I wouldn't be surprised if Councillor Johnston is in line to get some of that for his farm. There we go. Okay. Anyone else? Councillor Rothwell.
Good. Thanks very much, Mayor Todd, and through you. Thanks very much, Mark, for the report. And again, as representative of the Blue Water Recycling Association, I was pleased to see that we were able to provide at least more accurate information with respect to the amounts it would be. And I find it problematic, frankly, that it's an all or none situation in terms of every urban owner is going to be on the hook for the $50. And being a positive sort of individual, it'd be great if everybody did it. But I suspect the answer will be that not everybody will want to do this. And I think going to the public is going to be a very important issue for us to hear what the public has to say. And as much as it's great that we're talking about the urban folks, I mean, clearly the majority of our land area is rural, and really the only options we have on the rural side, unless of course we were going to do it for everyone, is our existing situations in terms of a compost on their own yard. And frankly, that's where most of our rural properties have all kinds of room, and they're not as constrained, certainly as an apartment, someone in an apartment building would be, or even a small residential lot. So I look forward to council's determination on this, but going to a pilot project is important. The food cycler technology that we've talked about, I can tell you I've been specifically asked to come and talk to the Eco Club at the high school about this issue even before this came on the agenda here tonight. So they certainly want to hear more about that, I'm sure. And I'll get peppered with questions and I'll have the latest information from council. So I look forward to our decision tonight. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I think Councillor Nurdum.
Thank you. Just curious, does any other municipalities do this green bin program with it's the BRA, right? Yep.
Through Mayor Kasenberg. I don't believe that anyone has moved forward with it. I know they've bid a couple of projects, but I don't know that they were successful in them at this point. Councillor Rothwell, would you be able to update me on that?
Looks like CAO Snow behind you has his hand up.
I know the town of Goderich has moved forward with the green bin collection through Blue Water Recycling. I know St. Mary's was exploring it, but I don't think they made a decision yet.
Okay. Councillor Rothwell, do you have any additional information?
Further, so there's those two municipalities. The city of Stratford does it as well, and they have another contractor as well involved in that. So again, there's a number of others that are in the queue in our Blue Water Recycling Association itself, and they're for implementation in this year, 2025, as things move forward.
Okay, so we won't be at the leading edge. We'll be into the mix if this comes about. All right, let's consider the resolution. I think the resolution is more focused on the public consult matter. As follows, that the Council of Municipality of North Perth directs staff to organize an organic composting options public information center and to develop an organic composting options survey for the residents of North Perth, and further that the Council of Municipality of North Perth directs staff to prepare a report for Council detailing the results of the PIC and the organic composting options survey. Moved by Councillor Rothwell, seconded by Councillor Duncan. Thank you. Any discussion or debate on this further? Seeing none, let's have that vote. Manually recording a vote for Councillor Rothwell in the affirmative. And with that, that is carried. Colleagues, I desperately need a bio break. So we're going to take a let's call it an 8-minute recess at this point so the mayor can not drown. Okay, we resume. We have an item from the Corporate Services Department as 9.3 on our agenda. As item 9.3.1, council is provided with a report pursuant to a request at council related to the availability of a property tax relief program for those who are struggling. We have Treasurer Ashton Romani here to present a report that was prepared by tax collector Amanda Ewing and himself. Mr. Romani, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor Kasenberg, and good evening, members of council. So as we know, property taxes are the primary source of revenue for municipalities in Ontario and are based on assessed property values. While municipalities have limited flexibility under the current property tax framework, the Municipal Act provides two primary mechanisms for property tax relief, being Sections 319 and Sections 365. Section 319 allows for the deferral or cancellation of tax increases for low-income seniors or low-income persons with disabilities. However, this section only applies to upper-tier or single-tier municipalities. As a lower-tier municipality, we are not able to adopt this provision directly, as if they're enacted by the upper tier. It applies to all the lower-tier municipalities. As such, Perth County currently offers a deferral program under this section, where tax increases with interest may be deferred until the property is sold if the applicant qualifies. While there have been a handful of inquiries over this program in North Perth in recent years, there have been no uptake on this program. Moving on to Section 365, it can be enacted by lower tier municipalities and provides opportunities for the cancellation, reduction, or refund of taxes that are deemed unduly burdensome. Relief programs under this section can be funded locally, including the county's portion, if the county chose not to implement a complementary bylaw under this section. School boards in any instance are required to absorb their portion of the tax bill regardless. It's important to note that based on our research, municipalities that have enacted this section consider unduly burdensome to align with those that are outlined under Section 319, which is, again, low-income seniors or low-income individuals with disabilities. So outside of these sections, there are other methods to provide relief for property taxes. With more detail provided in the report, available options do include Section 357 of the Municipal Act that speaks to extreme poverty or sickness. But we do have pre-authorized payment plans, of which we're further investigating on changing the due dates to alleviate some of the shift of the tax increases that shifted onto the monthly amounts, and it's updated in August of each year. And credits that are provided through income tax filings, being the Ontario Seniors Homeowners Grant and the Ontario Energy and Property Tax Credit. So when looking at any relief program, it would require a formal policy development, including eligibility criteria, application processes, and budgetary allocations to support the program. Moreover, these programs under the Municipal Act generally only apply to property owners, not tenants, which would exclude them from this segment. Lastly, since the county already operates a deferral program under Section 319 of the Act, introducing a separate program at the local level could present issues that would need to be further explored, as we're not aware of any other municipalities that have enacted both the sections under 319 and 365. If there's a desire of council for a more robust program, it may be more appropriate to explore the current program that's at the county level first, and it would allow opportunity for a more coordinated and equitable approach Perth County as a whole. So if there are any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer any.
Thank you, Mr. Romani. This report was fascinating to me. I did not know most of this stuff, and so it felt like training, which was great. I'm glad that I learned so much. Colleagues, any questions or comments further to Mr. Romani's report and the report from Ms. Ewing in our council package? Councillor Andreessen.
Yes, thank you through you, Mayor Kasenberg. Yeah, this report was very fascinating, and certainly it is in the intent, of course, of supporting our residents who are burdened with the taxes that we are imposing. I'm just wondering, you had briefly touched on a little bit about equalized payments and some changes in some due dates. And we had talked briefly about this, but I'm interested about you looking into this further. And if you could speak about that briefly to council about what you might be looking forward in the future around these kinds of more equalized payments, if you will. Thanks.
Through you, Mayor Kasenberg. Thanks for the questions. So one of the requests was to look at property tax due dates, and one of the outcomes of drivers of that was the monthly pre-authorized payment plan. Currently is calculated at over 8 months of the year, and when the final tax bill is issued in August, it's calculated again for the remaining 4 months of the year. And at that point in time, the increase is determined for the remainder of the year. So that increase, that shift is put onto 4 months opposed to the broader scope throughout the year. So one of the opportunities that we have in looking at the due dates, if we're able to maybe bring it 2 months earlier, that would allow that to shift that increase on the monthly pre-authorized payment plans over 6 months opposed to 4. So it allows for more equitable smoothing when we look at property tax calculations as a whole. So we do intend to bring that report. I think it's slated for May 12th when we look at property tax due dates.
Thank you, Mr. Romney. That's through you, Mayor Kasenberg. That's exactly what I think I'd like to see is what we could do to smooth those payments to make it easier on residents. And I look forward to that upcoming report. Thank you so much.
Thanks. Anyone else with questions or first comments? Can we reflect back on the pandemic period a little bit? I'm doing a little bit of sort of scenario planning in my head with regards to potential impacts of tariffs on jobs and more in our community. During the pandemic, we undertook a number of sort of relief efforts that tried to help people who might be in trouble. Are we starting to think about the possibilities of needing those kinds of supports again from the municipal government, Mr. Romani?
Through you, Mayor Kasenberg. I haven't heard of that topic yet, but I'm sure it would be something that would be welcomed. And going through it historically, I think North Perth has reduced the penalty charge during a period of time during the COVID times, and as well as far as collection activities, and like for tax sales, an example, were one of the things that were paused. But certainly, if things take a turn, and hopefully they don't, we have tools in the toolkit that we can look at exploring.
That's great. I would commend that to staff, that we should be doing a little scenario planning with regards to the tariff impacts and what could happen in our community. All right, anyone else with questions or first comments? Okay, seeing none, let's have the resolution as follows. The Council of Municipality of North Perth receives the report entitled Property Tax Relief Program Request for Information Purposes. Moved by Councillor Johnston, thank you. Seconded by Councillor Anstead. Any discussion or debate? Seeing none, let's have that vote. And that is carried. Thank you. Next, we have a report from the Strategic Initiatives Department. In item 9.4.1, staff have responded to a request for some more information and refinement of possible action related to a request from Listowel Memorial Hospital for vacancy-related costs associated with the housing program for medical learners known as residents. The new residency program is ramping up and is expected to hit its steady state of hosting 4 medical residents in 2026. Interim Manager of Strategic Initiatives, Lindsay Klein, has brought forward a report and a recommendation for our consideration. Ms. Klein, welcome.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Kasenberg. This report is a follow-up to a report presented at the last council meeting on March 10th to respond to some of council's questions regarding the $50,000 request for funding from the Listowel Memorial Hospital. Staff consulted with the recruitment officer for the hospital to clarify some of the questions that were raised. So to confirm, this is not a request to provide an incentive for residents, and it's not a request for the municipality to subsidize rent. It's a request to support the residency program with housing availability and to assist with any rental gaps that may or may not occur. Resident physicians will be paying for their own rent, and the $50,000 may or may not be needed in any given residency cycle, depending on whether there are any vacancies in the housing units provided for residents. Up to 3 units will be provided for residents in 2025 and up to 4 units in 2026 and on an annual basis moving forward. It is hopeful that 3 units will be secured and furnished in May of this year for a move-in ready date of June 1st. In terms of some comparators, neighboring residency programs in Hanover, Goderich, and Stratford have resident housing arrangements in place. And the recruitment officer has also provided some data from Western Schulich School of Medicine, which has reported that upwards of 80% of residents practice in communities in which they've trained. There was some discussion at the last council meeting regarding an initial funding commitment for a set number of years. The initial discussion was around a 5-year commitment, but after some consideration, council landed on a potential 3-year commitment, and LMH is agreeable to that term. So should council grant the request from LMH, the following recommendation has been prepared: that the Council of the Municipality of North Perth approves the request from the Listowel Memorial Hospital to offset vacancy-related costs incurred by Listowel Memorial Hospital for resident physician housing up to $50,000 per year for an initial 3-year term, and that for 2025, funding be allocated from the existing healthcare recruitment budget, with any overages being covered through the Strategic Initiatives Reserve Fund, and that the request be included in the 2026 budget process. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions or take any comments.
Thank you, Ms. Klein. Questions or first comments? I'm not seeing any at this point. Councillor Andreessen.
Thank you, through you, Mayor Kaysenberg. Ms. Klein, I just wondered if we're pretty clear that we anticipate those residencies would be secured to support the hospital, and the likelihood of these vacancies wouldn't be very high. Thank you.
Through the mayor, I can't speak to that for sure. I know there's big hope that we'll fill all of the residencies and that the units would be filled, so that potentially the $50,000 might not be used. I think it's just kind of a worst case scenario in case there are any gaps.
Anyone else with questions? Councillor Andreessen, you wish to continue?
Thank you, through you, Mayor Kaysenberg. Is there a potential where other healthcare workers perhaps could use this housing rather than leaving it empty, knowing that housing is an issue today? Just a thought. It would seem a shame to have, an apartment vacant when we know people are scrounging for housing. And some of those people could very well indeed be our medical workers, which may not be a doctor, but they could be an RN or another key practitioner in our hospital. So just wondering. Thank you.
Through the mayor, that is a comment that we could take back to the hospital. I do believe the hospital CEO is present, so perhaps she'd like to shed some light on that.
Colleagues, would you like an answer to that question from Ms. Miller from the hospital? Okay with that? All right, we'll open the podium, relax the rules here. Ms. Miller is the CEO of the hospital. She's welcome to answer that question.
Thank you, Mayor Kaysenberg. And through you, to answer the question, so we have the residency program and up to 4 residents. As you know, there's a huge gap in physicians in Ontario and across Canada. Now, there was a year where in Ontario, there were 3 residency slots not filled. However, given our dire straits in Ontario and in Canada, we highly do not expect our residencies positions to be vacant. We are looking at international medical graduates. Many of them are from Canada and they've gone abroad to study. So in terms of whether or not we would have any vacancies, would be very, very, very slim. It could be a last minute where somebody withdraws for various reasons, but it's not outside the realm of possibilities. Now, if those units were vacant, it would be for the term of a residency period, and so that would probably be up to 1 year. So we would always look at trying to fill those vacancies. Sometimes when we're recruiting a new physician, the hospital right now does provide 3 months of free rent through one of our units, and so we could obviously explore that. Like you, we'd never want to see public funds be left unused.
Thank you. Anyone else with questions or first comments? Councillor Johnston.
Thank you. The second part of the motion, so does that mean for this year, the money's coming out of that 65,000 that we have budgeted? Is that how I read that for this year? And then next year it would be budgeted over and above that?
Through the mayor, yes, that's correct.
Okay, I think I saw another hand wave. Councillor Rothwell.
Thanks, Mayor Todd. Lindsay, thanks for your reports, and CEO of the hospital as well for your comments. We've heard from our local community group for the need for our council to put even more priority on healthcare, and I think this discussion shows that we are. The concern I think that I have is that we've taken our traditional 50,000 a year that was in physician recruitment, and we've taken that from 50 to 65. And now under this proposal, which I think has great merit, we're looking at 3 years of an additional 50, up to 50. So there's then we're at 115. So what I want to, in making these comments, my understanding is that our hope is that the residency program is going to continue, and we'll have 4 residents and so on. This is going to become a de facto number. It's not going to be. Well, I presume not, and I don't want to speak for any future council, but I think it's going to be very difficult for us to walk away from the type of support that we're looking at doing. And it is significant. I think it's important that our community understands that this council, if we agree, is taking us to a point where we have even more dollars that we're showing our commitment as a community to help ensure that we have physicians within our community. So it is an understanding is that this hopefully won't stop after 3 years, although that's our commitment, if that's what we're saying tonight. But I presume that the ask will continue to come, and those costs could be more than 50 per year, as inflation does. So it's we can lament the fact that this is a provincial issue, but it's not. It's they're clearly not going to continue to come to the table to put additional money, and that's the reason why we find ourselves here. I am in support of this, as long as we ensure that, as was mentioned, those public dollars are and those spaces are allocated to be full as much as possible. But it is a continual increase that we're looking at, and it, in my suspicion, I don't think that we're going to be stopping at the end of 3 years, although that's all that's on the table right now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else with comments or questions at this point before we consider the resolution? All right. I will have comments to make after the resolution's on the floor. The Council of the Municipality of North Perth approves the request from the Listowel Memorial Hospital to offset vacancy-related costs incurred by the Listowel Memorial Hospital for resident physician housing up to $50,000 per year for an initial 3-year term. And that for 2025, funding be allocated from the existing healthcare recruitment budget, with any overages being covered through the Strategic Initiatives Reserve Fund, and that the request be included in the 2026 budget process. Can I call for a mover? Moved by Deputy Mayor Kellum, seconded by Councillor Blazek. Comments, discussion, debate. Councillor Blazek.
Thank you, through you, Mayor Kiesenberg. I wanted to confirm quickly, you had discussions with the recruitment team so that they're aware that the $50,000 is going to come out of the 65 that we've already committed at this point, and they haven't already allocated that 65 or intended to allocate it elsewhere first and foremost.
CAO Snell, did you want to comment, or Treasurer Romany at this point? I mean, the $65,000 commitment is in our budget, right? I'm sure that the hospital is expecting that support for the range of initiatives that it's been used for before. So is there a problem here with the financing, CAO Snell?
So up until present time, and certainly the issue is certainly fluid, and the municipality understands that. But up until now, we've only committed 20,000 towards the physician recruiter or healthcare recruitment position with the hospital. And the rest of the money is really just set aside, additional 45,000. And the recruitment committee has to come to us depending on the plan. And so in 2024, we set that money aside and it wasn't used, but it was reserved into the strategic initiatives reserve fund. And if we have overages, say we had really good opportunities and for some reason the physician recruitment committee needed the money, we would end up taking any of the overages out of the strategic initiatives reserve fund, which would limit council's ability to do future capital programs out of that fund, but that would be a decision by council at that time.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else with questions, discussion, debate at this point? All right, I'm going to be the grump and make some remarks here. I apologize in advance. Sometimes we can be enticed by things that look shiny or interesting or that keeps up with the so-called Joneses. I really get, very definitely get that we want to be competitive in the healthcare professional recruitment environment, especially for future physicians. Over the last year, I've spent many hours thinking, writing, and meeting towards this end. The clock is ticking on this problem. We have a lot of people who don't have primary care right now, and a lot of people who will lose access to primary care unless physician recruitment becomes even more successful than it's been in the last 3 to 5 years. Recall that I personally don't have a family physician in town and that I travel an hour into Kitchener to see my physician. But shiny or keeping up can deliver us into some troubled waters, I think. This proposition that we essentially pay to hold apartments for medical learners is tone deaf to the challenges of the precariously housed in our community, where we offer no such similar program. In fact, to me, if the hospital is to enter into a longer-term lease to hold space for a medical learner and be blessed with a surplus because a learner doesn't fill the spot or a learner doesn't like the accommodations that are offered, which is a possibility, the hospital does have a clear and viable backup. It can rent out the apartments on a short-term basis to a citizen in our community, as sort of hinted at by Councillor Andreessen. It's pretty likely there'll be a long lineup for that, in fact. There's no way that municipal dollars, which in my opinion are already spent excessively in what is a provincial responsibility, and I've heard Councillor Rothwell's comments on this, should be spent to hold a vacant apartment for a period of time when many are scrambling to find places to live. This does feel to me tone deaf to the reality that some in this community are precariously housed, and we aren't taking guaranteed actions to get them into housing. Now, there is another angle to the support that I tried to articulate at the last meeting, and I've really struggled to pull out of my gut. I think I might finally be able to explain it, so I'm going to try. When this municipality gets into the business of spending dollars, largely derived from the property tax base, to community-related projects and services, we have often been using as a focus that the benefits of a funded project or initiative may accrue to anyone in our community. When we pave a road, we don't restrict its use, or at least not yet. When we open up some recreational programming for the community, we assume that it's available to all, particularly when we are not charging a fee for service. There's a doing good that all can access premise, in my mind at least, that underlies municipal efforts. I cannot resist concluding that this effort of potentially paying for empty apartments, although we've heard some assurances that that may not come to pass, is restricted to doctors, given the ask. And so, should we invest, that means that the benefits of more medical professionals in our community should accrue to all. In response to a question, we have learned that, in fact, this +4 does not apparently make any short-term impact on the number of people who are rostered with doctors in our community because these are learners, right? Even though these learners will see patients, they will see the same closed roster of patients that are captured in the practices of our current doctors. And I know those doctors are feeling overwhelmed. This is a hope strategy, really, that the residents will adore our community and stay around after their learning. I too can be hopeful, but remind that in the short term, these municipal dollars do not impact patient rostering, and that therefore many in our community who will pay the property tax from which these funds are earmarked to the project have no chance, virtually no chance, of resolving their lack of having a primary care provider. That to me is akin to taxation without representation, to borrow a line from our American neighbors, and an equity that on principle at this time I cannot get behind. I am sure that I sound like a grump, but there is a principle here that I find myself convinced I cannot personally accept, no matter how shiny this looks. Anyone else have comments, discussion, debate? All right, let's have the vote. Microphone on would be useful, and that is carried. Thank you. Next up is a rather encouraging item from the CAO as item 9.5. In item 9.5.1, the CAO brings forward some work in progress that I have championed since the earliest days of my mayorship. Mr. Snell will introduce us to a first draft of a community dashboard on the web, having current metrics and insights available to us as council and also available to our community as a powerful help to community building. So I, at least, am excited and hope that I convey that. Let's hear from CEO Snell, and perhaps a demonstration is in order.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Council. As mentioned by the Mayor, this item has been on the work plan for several years and is being advanced tonight with our implementation of software and increased GIS capabilities that does allow us to align and collect more key performance indicators and other data, as well as with the addition of the communications coordinator has provided us with the resources to finally put together the community dashboard. The primary function is to utilize key indicators to monitor and communicate essential information regarding the municipality's community services and programs. We grouped the data into 4 distinct themes to align with the strategic plan goals or pillars: community services, growth and development, public safety bylaw and fire, and government services. The information is to highlight the municipality's performance and pivotal in identifying both strengths and weaknesses in areas that require more attention. It's our initiative to underscore our commitment to transparency, accountability, and community engagement. The data will be updated annually, or if we collect it as frequently as possible. So some of the stuff we collect quarterly or monthly, we'll try to update it as soon as possible. And certainly, the dashboard is a work in progress. If you recall, a couple of years ago, we did have a session where we asked council for input on the dashboard. We had a list that was so long we couldn't accommodate everything in our first attempts, but we certainly are looking for feedback and suggestions are encouraged. And if any councilor or member of the public would like to see improvements or data that we could put on the dashboard, please reach out to the CIO's office. I will just provide a short demonstration. So probably the easiest is if we just click on the growth and development tab. It will bring up just the 5 boxes that we're collecting data on. And then we can say, click on, to date, or to last year, we had 291 building permits, and we could click on the view part. And that would present the data in graph form for the 2023 and 2024. And we will just continue to add to that as we progress. Building permits are a perfect example of stuff that will probably be updating quarterly as the building department provides us the data. I'm happy to take any questions. Certainly council and the public can check all four categories and provide any feedback or comments. Thank you.
Thank you, CAO Snell. Colleagues, questions, first comments? Councillor Rothwell.
Thanks very much, Mayor Todd. Thanks very much, Chris, for you and your staff and the work on this. I just questioned the start dates are changeable depending on what we're looking at. So sometimes it's 2003 or 2023 and so on. So, and some go back as far as I think 2019, 2020 maybe. So I'm just wondering, is there any way that we can look at trying to have a more, no, not, more defined number in terms of whether it's going to be 2020 to our current date and so on. I'm just wondering how we can make it even more robust from that perspective. Thank you.
So really, we started the start date on when the data was easily obtainable. So that's why some of the dates are earlier, because we were collecting the data earlier in the process, and some of the start dates are just because we've just been recently collecting the data. I do recognize what Councilor Rothwell is saying, because it is a mixed. The charts are mixed somewhat depending on when the data is available. We could either look at, if possible, adding previous data to some of the other charts if the data is not too hard to come up with. But certainly that was one of the discussions that we had as senior management, was we just did not want to spend a lot of time going back and trying to collect data that we thought would be very time consuming. So that it does kind of leave us a little imbalanced, I would say, at the time right now. But we also, if we have the data, we didn't want to not provide it, and it's available. Certainly, I would like to thank the communications coordinator and senior staff for all their efforts to try and come up with KPIs and data that the public would find interesting, as well as councilors. So certainly look forward to expanding this over time.
Anyone further? Okay, I have a resolution for us as follows: that the Council of the Municipality of North Perth receives the report entitled Community Dashboard dated March 24th, 2025. Can I call for a mover? Councillor Andreessen, thank you. Seconded by Councillor Nordum. Any discussion or debate? Seeing none, let's have that vote. Councillor Andreessen records a manual in favor vote, and that is carried. Thank you. That gets us past item 9, reports from departments. For item 10, does any councillor wish to ask for a report from staff or from a committee? Seeing no expression of that, for item 11, we have received one item of correspondence beyond that already shared in the consent agenda for council's disposition. For item 11.1, we have a request to provide picnic tables for a spring market by the Listle Farm and Maker Market team. Before we go there, I think I'm going to ask Clerk Carter how this request aligns with our policy on such municipal supports. Ms. Carter, if you would, please.
Thank you, Mayor Kasenberg, through you. As council will remember, in April of 2024, we adopted a new council-directed donation policy. Under section 4.1 of that policy, it does state, municipal services and facilities such as rentals shall not be offered to local service clubs, organizations, or charitable groups at a reduced cost.
Thank you, Ms. Carter. So, colleagues, this request is actually inconsistent with policy. Just so that we know, we would be making an exception if we move forward with this. Colleagues, I have a resolution. Do you want to consider? Yeah, let's have some comments. Councillor Blazek.
Thank you, through you, Mayor Kasenberg. I'm in support of sticking to our policy, but I thought that this would be a prudent opportunity to remind this council and members of the public that effective May 1st, our municipality will no longer be offering off-site rentals of tables, chairs, and picnic tables, which was decided on by council at the recommendation of the Recreational Advisory Committee. So this maker market is sort of getting in on the last opportunity to rent those things from our municipality.
Thank you for the reminder and update. Colleagues, anyone wish to suggest how we should proceed here? I have a deny and an approve resolution sitting in front of me. Which one do you want me to consider? Per Councillor Blazek, she wants to consider a denial resolution. Is that what I'm gathering? All right, let's do it then. Consistent with policy, in other words. As follows, the Council of the Municipality of North Perth denies the request from the Listowel Farm and Maker Market to waive the fees for the use of up to 4 picnic tables, including delivery and pickup for the spring market on April 27, 2025 at Between the Lines Sports Complex. Moved by you. Do I have a second? Councillor Nordum, thank you. Any discussion or debate further on this? I think we have a policy and that we need to be a little bit more rigorous about its evaluation in the context of these things. I don't see any other comments from council, so let's have that vote. And that is carried. The request is denied. All right, at this point, let's turn to consideration of bylaws that have been recommended to us for action.
I must declare a conflict on item number 12.4, the Burnett Municipal Drain.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Councillor Johnston is declaring a conflict on the Burnett Municipal Drain. Why don't we extract, is that in here? Do you know the number of that one on here?
32-2025.
32. Why don't we extract that so that you can sit at the table for the other matters? And then we'll consider that one separately. Is that all right with the clerk? All right. So we are looking at 3 bylaws first, and then we'll pull up the last one and excuse Councillor Johnston for his declaration. So we have 3 bylaws for our consideration then, not 32. We're leaving that out. And before we do that, anyone else want to extract any of the others? Okay, so we are going to consider first the following resolution. The following bylaws are hereby passed. 29-2025 being a bylaw to exempt from part lot control, part of lot 131, registered plan 183, Listowel Ward in the municipality of North Perth. 30-2025 being a bylaw to amend bylaw 6-ZB-1999 as amended. And 31-2025 being a bylaw to amend bylaw 44-2018. Can I call for a mover on that? Councillor Anstett, thank you. Seconded by Councillor Andreessen. Any discussion or debate on those items? Seeing none, let's have that vote.
Manual, yes.
Okay, Deputy Mayor Callum records a manual yes. Everybody's being kicked out. eScribe's telling us it's too late. Move on. And that is carried. Thank you. Councillor Johnston is exiting the chamber. The minutes should record that. And now let's consider the resolution once he's out the door. The following bylaw is hereby passed. 32-2025 being a bylaw to amend bylaw 62-2021. Can I call for a mover on that? Councillor Nordum, thank you. Councillor Rothwell will be our seconder. Any discussion or debate on this one? Seeing none, if the clerk is with us, let's have that vote. Thank you. Beautiful. And that is carried. Thank you. Let's have Councillor Johnston return to the chamber. That puts us at item 13 on our agenda. Does any councillor wish leave to give notice of motion? Seeing nothing, that turns us to item 14 on our agenda. Are there any announcements that would be of benefit to our community or that reflect well on North Perth? Councillor Andreessen.
Thank you, through you, Mayor Kiesenberg. I note that on Wednesday, April 30th, I believe our municipality is celebrating volunteers and our award winners, correct? So I just want to make sure that the public is, and all our volunteers out there are noting that date. We want to make sure that they come and celebrate with us. And we look forward to acknowledging and, yeah, celebrating some awards locally amongst our residents. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Andreessen. Yes, the Celebrate North Perth Award night is that date. And this year we have added one additional award category for youth impact. So this is for younger people in our community who are making a contribution in ways that are meaningful. The nomination process is open right now, and I believe it's on Your Say North Perth, or is it on our website? It's on our website. CAO now says it's on our website, so let's go with that. All right, thank you. Any other announcements that we want made at this point in our meeting? All right, so we can skip past agenda item 15, which is about a closed session meeting of council. We don't have one. And we can skip item 16 because we did not have a closed session, we have nothing to report. Councillor Johnston is exiting the meeting and talking at me as he does so with regards to his declaration of pecuniary interest. He has exited the chamber. Let the minutes note that. Council has a mandated good practice acts near the end of its meeting agenda to confirm all of its actions and business of its meeting through what is called the confirmatory bylaw. And I have an enabling resolution for that as follows: that bylaw 33-2025, being a bylaw to confirm generally previous actions of the council of the municipality of North Perth, is hereby passed. Moved by Councillor Duncan, seconded by Deputy Mayor Kellum. Let's have that vote. Councillor Anstit's recording a manual in favor vote. And that is carried. Let's bring Councillor Johnston in for the grand finale. Councillors, we have completed deliberation and taken action on the business that came before us tonight. It is appropriate for us then to consider adjournment as follows: that the council meeting adjourns at 9:33 p.m. to meet again for general council business on Monday, April 7th, 2025 at 7 p.m. Can I call for a mover? Moved by Councillor Duncan, seconded by Councillor Andreessen. It's not debatable. Let's have that vote. Thank you. Councillor Anstett records manual in favor vote. That brings us to our collection of 9 in favor. That means, colleagues, that we can adjourn. Our next regular council meeting is Monday, April 7th, 2025 at 7 p.m. I will note with a certain amount of bemusement that I turn 60 between now and then. And with that delightful information, this meeting is adjourned.